Have you ever stopped to wonder why some of the richest men still find themselves betrayed, rejected, or completely ghosted, while other men, without the flashy cars or fat bank accounts, seem to effortlessly capture the hearts of extraordinary women? It's baffling, isn't it? We've all been fed the idea that having money is the ultimate key to success in love and life. But what if I told you that money is only a small fragment of a much bigger picture? What if the true secret lies in 6 powerful qualities that women secretly value far more than wealth? In this video, you're about to uncover those 6 hidden traits and learn how to cultivate them through the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers and a man whose insights have helped countless people master themselves and their relationships. So before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more eye-opening lessons on Stoic philosophy, human psychology, and how they shape modern love. Trust me, you'll want to stick around until the very end because what you're about to discover could completely transform the way you approach love and life itself. Now, let me take you back nearly 2,000 years to the year 175 AD. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, philosopher, and one of the most influential men of his time. He's not addressing a crowd or seeking fame. Instead, he's quietly writing in his private journal what would one day be known as Meditations. This wasn't meant for public eyes, it was a personal journey toward clarity, wisdom, and truth. Despite wielding unimaginable power, commanding armies, and possessing vast riches, Marcus Aurelius was never obsessed with wealth or status. Why? Because he understood a truth that many men today still miss: the qualities that truly inspire loyalty, love, and respect, especially from women, come from within. These inner strengths are far more magnetic than the newest luxury car or the blackest MX credit card. So what are these 6 qualities that women secretly treasure more than money? And how can you develop them using Stoic principles? Let's dive deep into this journey together. But first, think back for a moment. Do you remember the first time you genuinely fell for someone? That feeling that made your heart race and your mind spin? That's where our story begins. When everything seemed like pure magic, something shifts. Suddenly, you're not really talking to her anymore. You're speaking at her. Your voice raises, maybe louder than you intended. You say things you don't fully mean, caught up in the heat of the moment. And then you notice it. The way she looks at you changes. That sparkle in her eyes, the one that once lit up your world, starts to fade. Why? Because now she doesn't feel safe. She's beginning to wonder if the man she once fell for is still the same person standing before her. This is exactly where Marcus Aurelius's wisdom comes into play. Marcus wasn't just a philosopher pondering life's mysteries. He was the emperor of Rome, a man responsible for an entire empire, commanding armies, and making life or death decisions every single day. Yet, within his private journals, he repeatedly reminded himself of one profound truth: you have control over your mind, not over external events. Take a moment to let that sink in. You can't control what she says, whether she leaves, her moods, her past, or her fears. But here's the crucial part: you can control how you respond. Mastering your emotions transforms you into the eye of the storm, calm, centered, and powerful. And that, my friend, is the kind of man women never forget. Think back for a moment. Have you ever let your anger push her away? Said things in the heat of the moment that still haunt you today? It's okay. Everyone has been there. The good news is, you get a second chance. Maybe not with her, but with the next woman. Or even more importantly, with yourself. Emotional control doesn't mean suppressing your feelings. It means mastering them. It means when she tests you, and she will, you stay grounded. When life throws unexpected curveballs, you don't break, you bend. And here's the beauty of it. Women sense this strength. They feel the power in your silence, the safety in your steadiness, and they trust it, because in a world full of impulsive, emotional men, the one who remains calm is the true king. So ask yourself this: next time she pulls away, or says something hurtful, or your pride flares up, will you react impulsively, or will you respond like a Stoic? Because the man who truly wins her heart is the man who can hold himself together. And if you're still here with me, listening closely, that means something inside you already knows this is true. You're not here by accident. You're here because your story is still being written. And brother, the next chapter begins with emotional control. Remember her smile, the way she leaned in when you talked. That night, she whispered, "I've never felt this way before." It felt like magic, didn't it? Building on that magical moment you just remembered. The feeling of being deeply in love, not just with her, but with the idea of her, with the warmth and excitement she sparked inside you. But then, something shifted. She began to grow distant. Texts became shorter, replies came slower. You asked if something was wrong, and she said, "I don't know. It's not you. I just feel like something's missing." And suddenly, confusion took over. You thought you were doing everything right, giving her your attention, your time, even your money when she needed it. So why did it feel like something was slipping away? Here's a truth many won't tell you. Love doesn't thrive in comfort. It breathes and grows through movement and purpose. Women don't just fall in love with a man. They fall in love with his mission. Let me ask you something right now. If someone asked, "What's your purpose?" how would you answer? Would you say, "I want to be rich," or "I want to be successful"? Or would you say, "I'm building something meaningful. I'm chasing something bigger than myself"? You see, when a man is truly walking his own path, locked in, focused, building, becoming, that's when women feel most drawn to him. Not because he's ignoring them, but because his presence carries direction and intent. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor of Rome, wasn't sitting idly on his throne sipping wine all day. He lived intensely. By candlelight, he wrote in his journal daily, reminding himself, "Do not waste what remains of your life speculating about others." His focus was clear. It's not your job to control the universe, but to direct your own steps. Purpose isn't about being busy. It's about moving with intention. Let me share a story. Maybe it's yours. Or maybe it's the story of every man. There was once a guy deeply in love. He made her laugh, cooked for her, and they talked for hours. But as the months passed, she began to ask questions. What do you want to do with your life? Where are you going? And he'd smile, shrug, and say something like, "I'm still figuring it out." She waited, she supported, but inside, her heart began to drift away. Not because he was a bad man, but because he had no map, no fire, no clear purpose. And one day, she said goodbye, not because she didn't love him anymore, but because he didn't love something bigger than her. Women want to feel your purpose. They want to walk beside a man who is going somewhere, even if they don't know exactly where the road leads. Continuing from the idea that women want to walk beside a man who is moving forward, even if the destination isn't clear, let me ask you this. What are you building right now? What is it that stirs you awake in the quiet moments before anyone sees? What is so meaningful to you that you would be willing to give everything for it? What cause would you proudly endure hardships for? Let me tell you a story. Maybe it's your story, too. There was a time when you were motivated, hungry for success. You worked out regularly. You had a plan. You were building something meaningful. You were the man she first fell in love with. But then comfort crept in quietly. You stopped waking up early. You skipped the gym. You put your dreams on hold, telling yourself, "She loves me, that's enough." But slowly, something changed in her eyes. She started losing respect, not because she stopped loving you, but because you started losing yourself. Here's the key. Women don't just love who you are. They fall in love with what you stand for. And nothing speaks louder about strength than self-discipline. Marcus Aurelius said, "Just do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter." He didn't care for applause or rewards. He cared about showing up for himself every single day. Self-discipline isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about choosing the hard path when no one is watching. Waking up at 5 a.m. even when you're exhausted. Turning off Netflix and focusing on your goals. Saying no to short-term pleasure to protect your long-term purpose. So, let me ask you, how would she look at you now if she saw you living with discipline again? If she saw you focused, driven, refusing to waste your potential? How would she feel watching you grow into the man you promised yourself you'd become? Because here's the secret. Self-discipline isn't just attractive, it's absolutely irresistible. It shows a woman that you respect yourself. And a man who respects himself automatically commands respect from others, including her. Let's explore what truly happens when you shift your focus. When you stop chasing the quick hits of dopamine and instead start chasing excellence. Everything in your life transforms. Your energy changes. Your presence deepens. Suddenly, your eyes tell a completely different story, not one of regret or neediness, but one filled with purpose and control. And maybe, just maybe, she'll sense that change. Maybe she'll think to herself, "He's different now. He's back." But here's the key. Whether she comes back or not, it doesn't really matter. Because you're not doing this for her anymore. You're doing this for you. You're rebuilding the man who wakes up early, keeps his promises, and makes himself proud even in moments of silence. That's the man she misses. That's the man the world desperately needs. So today, ask yourself a powerful question. Not, does she still love me? But, do I still love the man I've become? Once you answer that honestly, everything else will naturally fall into place. Now, let's talk about Stoic confidence and presence. Have you ever been physically there with her, but not truly present? Maybe you were sitting right next to her, phone in hand, but your mind was miles away, caught up in work stress, worries, or mindlessly scrolling through Instagram as she talked, hoping she wouldn't notice you weren't fully there. Think back to the beginning of your relationship, when you were completely all in, when every word she spoke made you lean closer, when you looked into her eyes like she was the only thing that mattered in the entire universe. She felt it then, your presence, that sacred attention that silently said, "I see you, you matter to me." But over time, that presence faded, and one day, she pulled away, not because she stopped loving you, but because she stopped feeling you. You see, presence isn't just about physically being there. It's about being truly alive in the moment. It's exactly what Marcus Aurelius meant when he said, "Confine yourself to the present." So simple to say, yet so challenging to do. Right? We get distracted. Our minds wander. We worry about tomorrow, regret yesterday, and miss the one place where love actually lives, right here. Right now. Let me share a story. There was a man who adored his woman. Every morning, he told her, "I love you." He bought gifts, took her out, tried to show he cared. But something was missing, and she felt it. At dinner, he'd be glued to his phone. When she opened her heart, he only half listened. He thought he was doing enough. But one night, she looked at him and said, "Where did you go? You're right here, but I can't feel you anymore." That sentence shattered him, because in that moment, he realized she wasn't asking for more things. She was asking for more of him, his presence, his attention, his soul. And maybe this hits close to home for you, too. Maybe the woman you loved began to feel like she was competing not just with your phone, but with your distractions and wandering thoughts. Now, let's explore a deeper aspect, the integrity within yourself. Do you remember the last time you truly gave her your full attention? No phones, no worries, no multitasking. Just you, open, genuinely present, and completely with her? If that answer stings a little, that's actually a great opportunity to change. Because from this moment on, you have the power to choose differently. Decide to be present, not just with her, but with yourself, with life, and with the small yet meaningful moments. When you return to that presence, you don't just win back her heart, you win yourself back. The true, profound man inside. But there's one more thing, integrity. The wholeness within you. When she left, or when things started falling apart, how did you feel being alone? I'm not talking about being alone in a crowded room, but that raw, echoing silence within your soul. When the messages stopped, when her familiar scent was no longer on your hoodie, when you lay in bed staring at the ceiling, wondering if she had moved on. Did those moments break you? Or did they wake you up? Most men fear solitude. We chase connection, dread silence, beg for attention, not because we're weak, but because we never learned how to be whole on our own. Remember when you first met her. You had your own vibe, your own pace. You weren't desperate. You weren't chasing. You were simply being yourself. And that's what drew her in. But over time, something changed. You lived more for her and less for yourself. Your identity got wrapped up in her affection. And when she pulled away, so did your sense of self. Here, Marcus Aurelius leaves us a priceless lesson. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Let that sink in. He's telling you that solitude isn't your enemy. It's your power. When you become comfortable in your own company, everything changes. You stop needing women and start attracting them. Because confidence isn't loud, it's silent. It's a man sitting alone in peace, not because he's lonely, but because he's complete. Let me tell you a story. There was a man who went through heartbreak. It shattered him. He spiraled. He looked for rebounds. He begged. He cried. He drank too much trying to escape the ache. Until one day, he stopped running and sat down. After choosing to face it instead of running away, his journey stepped into a new chapter. He sat down, alone, in silence. At first, it was painful, as if every sound inside his heart echoed louder than ever. But he stayed, and then, over time, something magical began to happen. He started hearing his own voice again. He rediscovered passions he had long abandoned. He wrote in his journal. He went to the gym, letting sweat fall in place of tears. He took long walks without headphones, just to converse with the endless stream of thoughts in his mind. Bit by bit, he rebuilt himself. And one day, when he looked in the mirror, he no longer saw a broken man or just a half, but a whole, steady, unshakable man. That is exactly the kind of man women secretly desire. A man who doesn't chase validation. Who isn't afraid of being alone because he knows he is enough. So let me ask you, can you sit in silence and still feel your power? Can you spend a Friday night alone and still feel complete, not because you've gone numb, but because you are truly whole inside? If you can learn this, if you can master solitude, you will never have to beg for love again. Because when that happens, love will be drawn to the man who doesn't need it to feel alive. Remember, solitude is not a prison, it's a temple, where your power is reborn. And when you've reclaimed that presence, think back to the first time you saw her cry. Maybe it was over something small, a bad day, a painful memory, or something you didn't fully understand. But in that moment, you held her. You didn't have to say much. You were simply there, calm, steady, grounded, and she melted into your arms. Not because you fixed anything, but because she felt safe in your energy. But did she still feel that way when you were angry? When you were anxious, out of control, yelling, slamming doors, or shutting down completely? Or did your emotional waves begin to drown her? One of the deepest truths most men never learn is this. Women don't fall in love with chaos. They fall in love with calm. Not the fake kind of calm, not the silent treatment, the cold shoulder, or bottling everything up until you explode, but real emotional control. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That right there is the core of masculine energy. Let me tell you a familiar story. There was once a man who loved deeply. They had good days and bad days. Until one night, she said something that touched an old wound in him. She didn't mean to hurt him, but it still did. Instead of pausing to think, he reacted. His voice rose. A door slammed. Maybe he even walked out. And in that moment, he saw her eyes. Not fear, but disappointment. Not because he was angry, but because the man she once leaned on wasn't there anymore. After that moment, he suddenly realized a painful truth. She never needed him to be perfect. She only needed him to be steady. Like an anchor. You see, emotional control doesn't mean you're not allowed to feel. It means you feel everything, but you choose how to respond. It's the difference between saying, "I'm upset, let's talk when I've calmed down," and saying, "Whatever, do what you want, I don't care." One shows real strength. The other is just weakness wearing fake armor. Women are deeply sensitive to energy. They don't need you to cry every day, nor do they want you to bury your emotions. What they crave is a man who can keep the ship steady even when the storm hits, without letting it sink. So let me ask you, how do you handle anger? How do you move through stress, heartbreak, disappointment? Do you master your emotions, or do they master you? The truth is, a woman will trust her heart with a man who has mastered his own. A man who can sit in discomfort and still choose peace. A man who doesn't let ego or impulse dictate his actions. That is the man she respects. That is the man she stays with. So today, don't just aim to be the strongest man in the room. Be the calmest, the most grounded, the one who doesn't flinch when life starts to shake. Because emotional control isn't just some stoic virtue. It's the secret doorway to unshakable love. Let me tell you a short story about two men. Two men walk into a restaurant. One wears a $10 watch, a tailored suit, and places his Ferrari keys on the table. He orders the most expensive bottle of wine, brags about his business, and keeps glancing at his phone. The other wears simple clothes. He doesn't talk much, but when he does, everyone listens. He looks people in the eye, smiles, and calls the waitress by her name. When he listens, it's as if the whole world slows down. By the end of the night, which man do you think the woman at the next table is drawn to? The truth is, women don't remember your wallet. They remember the way you made them feel safe, understood, valued, and grounded. Money might make an impression at first, but presence, integrity, and emotional strength are what leave a lasting mark. My friend, money might catch her eye, but what keeps her is you, not your bank account, not your car, not your status, but your mindset, your presence, your steady strength. Marcus Aurelius never chased applause. He chased virtue, and in doing so, became unforgettable. So ask yourself, not, what do women want, but what kind of man am I becoming? Because when you build yourself from the inside out, love stops being something you chase, and starts being something you naturally attract. And then, you will realize that everything she's looking for isn't in grand promises or expensive gifts. What she values most is the sense of peace when she's with you. That when the world out there is in chaos, she still feels safe by your side. The true strength of a man does not lie in muscles, money, or fame, but in his ability to control himself when everything around him is falling apart. When you can remain calm, refusing to let impulsive emotions take over, you become someone she can truly trust, and someone you can trust yourself to be. Because life will always bring new storms, pressure, loss, those moments when you feel like you can't stand anymore. But if you train yourself to become a lighthouse, standing tall, shining bright, regardless of the wind and rain, then not only she, but everyone around you, will find trust when they look toward you. And when you live like that, you won't need to search for love. Love will naturally find you, because it's not drawn to the glitter of the surface, it's drawn to the strength within. Remember, Marcus Aurelius didn't become immortal in people's minds because of power or victories, but because he mastered himself in the harshest adversities. So, if today you're asking yourself, what do I need to do to keep her? The answer isn't buying more gifts, or trying to act tough. It's becoming the man who can sit in the storm and still keep peace within. Because in the end, the man she chooses to stay with is the man who knows how to be a safe harbor, not just a passing wind. If you find this video helpful and meaningful, please like, subscribe, and share it to spread the Stoic spirit to more people.